Hello, happy Friday. It's the second Friday of March, so that means it is the virtual crop weekend for Creative Memories. I am Megan Jacks. I'm a Creative Memories advisor, and I'm going to walk you through how I am putting together sketch number 4. So in the link below, or excuse me, the description below, you'll see a link to the Creative Memories blog where you can look at all the sketches for the virtual crop, as well as download a printable PDF that you can have for all the sketches. So this is the printout right here. It's lovely. It's got the measurements right on there, making it really relatively easy and straightforward to put these together. You can get, of course, as creative as you want with your layouts. You can vary it as you need to. Don't feel that you're restricted to what they have here. In fact, you're going to see I'm going to be putting together sketch number 4, and you're going to see that I'm making some changes based on my photos, based on the overall feel that I liked for this. So, but the big thing here, and the reason I wanted to make the video, is I do punch using the Border Maker cartridge. I punch around the circles that are included, shown on this sketch. So I'm going to show you how to do that, because instead of the jumbo circle with the outside edge, we're going to be using that inside track to make a smaller circle, and I'll show you how to use the Border Maker cartridges with that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to switch over here to my desktop and we'll get started. All right, so right here you can see I've got my printout. I've got my jumbo circle is around here somewhere, and I will be able to show you guys how to do this. There it is. You're gonna need your jumbo circle. You're also gonna need, you're gonna have a pencil. I'm using black because I'm actually working with Halloween photos. I could show you on a piece of white scratch paper. In fact, I think that's maybe what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna I just have a piece here of white. I think it's maybe a piece of white cardstock. You could use cover stock, whatever you have available. I would recommend practicing this technique before you do it. But before we dive too much into this, I do want to show you kind of what I'm going to be, what I'm going to make for, or my goal is here, right? I have Halloween photos, so I am using the Happy Hauntings collection, and I've got it all laid out on my scrap board. Here it is. This is my magnetic board. It's like an easel, and you can see here what we're doing. So you see these circles right here on the 2 outer edges. I'm going to show you how we're able to use the bats and stars to punch around that edge. So the measurements that I'm going to be giving you are going to work for Border Maker cartridges. Now you will want to experiment. This is a different sizing, it's different tools. You'll want to make sure that you are comfortable with this. I also use the circle cutter to be able to make a mat for this circle. And I'll talk about the other elements here. I'm still kind of playing around. Like, I'm not sure I'm going to use the cobweb element here. I might not. I'm not sure yet. That's a great thing about this scrap board, or the scrap easel, is I've got it all just kind of magnets holding things in place while I play around with it. So, but I want to focus on how to make these half circles that are a key feature of this layout. So to get started with this, we are going to go ahead, and I've got my jumbo circle. I'm going to want to use my red blade for this. The sketch talks about an 8 3/4. I think it was 8 3/4. Yeah, an 8 3/4 inch circle. So that is the inside track with the red blade. You, of course, could make that bigger or larger. If you want it to be a bigger feature, you could go to the outside track. If you want it to be a smaller feature, you could go smaller. But I'm going to go ahead with their measurements, and we're going to use the inside track. It's habit for me to just line things up. I'm using a jumbo circle that apparently is not marked. Oh, there's the one that is. I have like 3 jumbo circles. I have them around for demos when I'm doing events. Here's my jumbo circle that is marked, so I can line this up. I've got my sheet here on the cutting mat, and I'll be able to go ahead and line this up. And like I said, I am using the inside circle here, and I'm gonna use my red blade. Make sure I've got it in there correct. And go ahead and cut all the way around with that red blade. Now, if I've taken the time to line up my main page on my trimming mat, that's really what I want. What I'm gonna be able to do is I can lift up. Well, actually, I'll have to remove my my template here, I'm so used to being able to work with the, just pull it up from the outside. I actually have to remove my template, and I'll be able to leave my circle here in the middle. Now, because I've worked with a smaller circle, I can easily see all of my outside edges here. And what I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna wanna mark every 30 degrees. So we use the red blade, inside track, and we are marking every 30 degrees. And this is for border maker cartridges. All right, remember, border maker cartridges are going to be different than if we were using our blue and white border punches. The border maker cartridges have a smaller bite to them. They have a 2-inch bite. Now I am using bats and stars because I've got a Halloween theme going here. I'm using bats and stars. I guess I should probably mark my 30 degrees before I get carried away and go too much. I'm going to go ahead and mark my 30 degrees. I am going to go ahead and I'm using a pen, a marker, so you can see my bold lines. If you are marking on your paper, your pretty paper that you're cutting, you want to work from the back side. This would be the back of a designer paper. Of course, if you're working cardstock or shimmer paper, you don't have to worry about front and back. But this, for this purpose here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark every 30 degrees. And the reason I am using, I'm going to use my ruler is bats and stars. If I were just to make a little tick mark, I lose that tick mark up inside my border maker cartridge here. I can't see it. Bats and stars is a knockout style, meaning all it's chomping out is bats and stars. It's not altering the edge. It's not cutting away from the paper. So I need to really mark something. In fact, I want to be able to see my line come out here at the extend from the edge. So I'm going to give myself a very generous line every 30 degrees. And every 30 degrees is, think of a clock. So I'm going to have a total of 12 spots. Just mark it all the way around, and as always, taking the time to mark these and take your time marking them is going to ensure that you have good results when you punch. We mark it so that we can have even spacing all the way around. So here we go. Last one. There we go. All right, so there I've got every 30 degrees. So now what I'll be able to do is go ahead and come in here with my bats and stars. I can line this up. I am looking for even spacing. If I wanted to, I could come in here and mark the edge. I haven't done that. You can come in here and mark the middle of your spacing, which looks to be around 1 1/4, or 1 and I think it was 1 1/4. I think the overall thing is 2. It's roughly 1 1/4 is going to be halfway. I think I'm just going to be able to eyeball it. You can do whatever's comfortable for you if you want to mark the opposite side. You also could punch from the top if you wanted to, but I like to punch from the reverse side. So I'm going to come in here and I am really just looking to see that I'm spaced. I can see where that line's coming down. I look to be centered between those lines, and I'm going to go ahead and punch. Now, if you are using a border maker cartridge that is an edge style, you're going to want to play around a little bit. I am lucky I'm not cutting this outside edge at all. So really all I'm worried about is just making sure that my bats and my stars don't overlap. So if you're using a chain style or a edge style, you're going to have maybe a little bit more considerations. So experiment, use some extra cardstock and figure out what's going to work best for that punch. And take notes if you have a little notebook that you keep. To keep the notes so you remember which ones worked well, which ones didn't work so well. If you're not sure and you're practicing, I could switch my Border Maker cartridge right now. I know Bats works. I can see it working just fine. I could switch out my Border Maker cartridge and try a couple punches with other ones and see how the spacing, see how that edge lines up. So when it comes to practicing and figuring out which Border Maker cartridges will do it, which ones will not, just practice, experiment, keep notes. If you're like me, you forget. Have a little notebook or grab your phone. I love the notes feature of my phone. Or sometimes I email myself. I'll make the notes and then I'll send myself an email. So there we go. You can see from the front side that it looks really good. It made a very nice set of bats and stars around the perimeter. Now, in my example, I did matte. I wanted to have the bats stand out a little bit more. So you can see here, I was using a little bit of a darker wood tone background and I had black shimmer bats and stars. So I needed something that was going to pop those bats a little bit. And I decided I wanted to have a little bit of a matte effect as well. So what I did is I used just some tonal paper from the I think it was from the Shades of the Season pack that matched Happy Hauntings. And I had to use the circle cutter. The reason is I didn't have a way to make, essentially, I needed about a 9 1/4 inch mat or circle to go around this. As you can see, the next size of circle that I can make that's bigger is coming here to the outside edge of the jumbo circle. I don't want it that big. I want it just a little bit bigger. I could have gone with a smaller interior cut. I could have done maybe the green or the blue. However, then my spacing gets up a little bit harder. I would have had my spacing for my Border Maker cartridge would have been a little bit of a challenge there. So since I used the red blade on the outside edge or inside edge, I need to go ahead and I'm going to use my circle cutter to cut a mat here to go behind it. Now I determined that 9.2 was the size I wanted. And the circle cutter, I'll be honest, I love it because you can dial the circle, right? Any size circle I want, I can just dial that circle. I can just bring it out here to where I want. 9, it's 2/10 of an inch for every little hash mark there, the white hash marks. And I'll go ahead and just secure it in this place by twisting the larger knob, get it secured into space. And now let me grab that black cardstock again. I can go ahead and cut out a circle using this. And I'm just going to go ahead and center this on my cutting mat again. I cut the center out of the circle. When I cut this out of tonal paper, I was actually able to then trim a couple of 12-inch strips off of each side to incorporate into the layout to just carry that color through a little bit more. And I'll show that to you when we start looking at the layout itself. So to use a circle cutter, I've dialed what I want. I've got this where I want, just positioned kind of in the middle here. I'm going to hold down on the larger knob, push in the white button, and spin the circle. There we go. Now I've got a mat for my bats. So there you can see, super easy to do. Having that circle cutter, it does come in handy. If you don't have it, put it on your wish list. It'll fit in a stocking come Christmas time or maybe for Mother's Day. So now what I need to do is let's take a look at the layout itself. Because the sketch, remember the sketch has 2 circles. So I started with one and I started with it in the middle. And let me kind of show you what I was thinking. I'm going to go ahead and quickly pull everything off this board. Well, actually, let me just see if I can just collapse it down. I love my Scrap Easel. I've talked about it over and over. I think last Power Hour, I gave like some crazy, almost, it was like a infomercial about it, but it was really fantastic. So we'll go with this. I've just flattened it down. And when I started working with this, I had my photos picked. I wasn't sure how they were going to fit on the layout. And I hemmed and hawed on what background paper to use. I mean, as you guys know, picking out paper can take forever. So what I started with, the evolution of how this design came together, I started with this. I was going to go ahead and put everything in the middle. Let me just move these together. I was going to have it in the middle. And I was thinking, well, I'll just do the middle portion. And I wasn't going to worry about on the outside. I had already kind of determined maybe I wasn't going to worry about the circles on the outside. You can see here, you could, as I ended up doing, cut some photos in those half circles. I'll talk about those in just a minute. Gives me some options there. But then as I started laying photos out, I was covering up a lot of it. And I just went to all this trouble to make those punches. I wanted it to be a little bit more of a focal point. However, what I did determine that if I was going to move the elements from here, I wasn't going to worry about doing that second circle. And I went ahead and I moved them to the outside edge. I did cut some strips. You can see here, I cut that I cut the circle. The circle that I cut here, I cut it in half. I'll show you in a minute how to do that. It makes it really easy to cut that circle in half. And then what I did is I cut these strips from that outside edge. Remember I talked to you about I had that big, the circle that I had in the middle, I had a lot of excess paper. I just cut 1.5 inch strips, or maybe these are 1.25 inch strips on the outside edge. I didn't really matter too much. I just needed them to be thick enough that I could do some layering. These come in here. They're probably going to tuck under just a little bit. And as I said, what I love about my mat is I can just grab one of my magnets and put it into place, and it just holds things in place for me. Okay, and I did the same thing over on the other side. Just got it put into place. I'll work on the even spacing. Nothing is adhered down. It's just using magnets to hold it in place. This is about that dry fitting that I talk about. I just want to get an overall idea of how things are going to look. So I'll put the magnets in place to hold these pieces down. Now what I need to do is we started to work on photo placement. And this was a big thing. I have worked, like I said, I've worked hard to get these circles, right, to look really pretty. And I don't want to cover them up too much. So I had some vertical photos, I had a lot of vertical photos. And what I started thinking of, well, what if I cut those into that half shape? Like, why can't I fit that here? So if I were to go back and look, let me see if I can find a photo. I had a lot of vertical photos from this. So if I were to start, putting photos on here, especially the way, they had it, and I kind of threw that out. Once I got this far, at this point, I am working to get my photos on there the best I can. I have tossed out the rest of the sketch at this point. I am just working to get my photos on there. I'm keeping elements of the sketch, the half circles. I've tossed what I don't want to worry about, which is that center circle. And now I'm just worried about my photo placement. I've got my background pretty much done. So let's talk about the photo placements. I had square photos. If I wanted to do horizontal photos, how was I going to do this? And I was just covering up so much. So what I decided is, can I put a horizontal, or can I put a vertical photo in there? Well, okay. Now what if I were to cut that to match the curvature here? And that's what I ended up doing. So to cut those curvatures, you're going to want to use the circle number 3, which is the large circle of the trio. And let me grab my mat again. I'm not going to actually cut it. I've already cut it, but you can see, you just want to grab your, whichever photo you're going to cut, and you just line it up, whatever side you're cutting, from. Obviously, if I'm cutting to this side, I need to cut off the left edge of my photo. If I want one for this side, I'm going to cut the right edge of my photo. And you just use the red blade to make that half circle. And that's what I did. Then I did want to mat it. So I used a tonal piece of paper, and I used the green blade on the outside track to make a mat. And that gives me this lovely bit here. I do have a little bit of an extension here. I'm actually going to cover that up with a sticker. There's a sticker border I'm going to be using. So this just gets put here. Let me move I got to bring my piece out just a little bit more. It's going to be kind of like such. And the same thing is going to go on the other side. So there we go. I thought that was a great way to incorporate, not, sometimes in the middle of the circle, you just don't know what to do. And I thought that worked really well. That's a great thing about that inside. If I had used the jumbo circle, I would have a lot more space to fill. Obviously, it's been difficult to do with just one photo, but a vertical photo inside the inside circle with using that circle number 3 of the trio worked great. So then it came time to what am I going to do in the middle? Well, I had these 3 horizontal photos and I was like, oh, well, I'll just put them down the side. But they needed a mat. So I went ahead and just cut one. This piece here is just, I think it's 5.5 inches. Maybe it's just 5. It is just shy of 5 inches, 4 7/8, because my photos here are 4.5 inches. They're 4.5 inches wide, and I think they are about 3 and maybe 5/8 tall, which is going to give me a nice bit of separation. So they're all on that same mat. Gets that orange, keeping that orange color coming in throughout. I had another photo that I ended up cutting. I was going to do a 4-inch square, but I ended up cutting it into a circle. Thought that would work a little bit better. It's going to be over here as such. And then I had some additional photos. This is a 4x6 photo. I left it as a 4x6. And this photo here is going to come on as such, and it's actually going to be a peekaboo pocket. I cut the orange paper to 4x6. I'll mount the pumpkin photo on top, and then when you open it up, it's going to have additional pictures that are of the pumpkins themselves, kind of when they're sitting out on the back step and when they're lit up. Let me see if I can find, I'm a bit of a mess here. I think it's these 2 photos. So when you open it up, you will see this photo here, and then the photo of the pumpkins lit. I always like to do those type of things where you can see the photo, see the jack-o'-lanterns all lit up. And then up here in this corner, I'm still not 100% sure. It's kind of one of those things, once I get everything all put together, I might come in here with this. I could come in and do some black lines with black journal lines with white writing. That might be kind of fun. And on this edge, I talked about using a border sticker. And what I'm going to do, the border sticker I'm going to use is going to be this scallop border from the pack. And it's going to come over here, and it's going to come up and cover a little bit of those photos. I'll be able to see a little bit of, I think, purple sticking out the backside, but it's going to cover up the edge of the photos here. So I obviously need to put everything together and figure out for sure what I'm going to do there. But overall, I really liked it. I am super excited about this layout, and that's why I wanted to put together the video. I wanted to be able to show you how to create these pieces there, because I know that's going to be a question that'll be asked on how to do it. And I think it's fun to be able to play with your punches, that inside circle. Quickly though, before I go, I do want to talk about how to easily cut the circle in half. So let me move this out of the way. Another great thing about this, I can just, everything's magnet down. Except for these, and I will just toss a couple magnets over there. Keeps everything in place for me, so I can move things around as needed. So the circle, using it with to cut it in half, you're going to want your trimmer, of course. And you can cut them separate from each other. You could go ahead and adhere them into place if you wanted to. Once you've got them, this piece on top, if you're cutting them as one section, what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to bring it all the way to the bottom. You could also do it all the way to the top, but you really want to take advantage of these this bottom gutter here at the end of the trimmer bed. You can see here, this spacing right here. We're gonna nestle that circle right there. Make sure both, the curvature of the circle cut touches both of those corners. And then we're able to go ahead and cut it in half. That is the half. As the circle gets bigger, you have to be a little bit more careful, but overall this should work fine to give us that, to cut a circle in half. You can use it for various size circles. Obviously the smaller, there does get to be a spot where it's, you know, a little bit too small to work down there, but for the most part, it cuts a lot of various size circles for you, and just cut it in half. There we go. I cut my circle in half. You can see that it did a really nice job. Both of those black pieces are the same size. So, all right, that is sketch number 4. I hope you guys have a chance to put it together. I'm going to work on this. I'm actually supposed to be starting dinner, but who wants to do that? So I'm going to go ahead and get this put together. I'll get the picture on there so you'll be able to see that, a flash at the end for you here. And so you guys can see how fun sketch 4 could be. As always with the sketches, toss out what you don't need. I decided that center circle wasn't going to work for me. It was going to take up a little bit too much space, maybe be a little too distracting for my layout. For yours, it might work perfect. But try experimenting with those border maker cartridges on that inside bit. And I can't wait to see what you guys create. So thanks so much for watching. Be sure to share your layouts into the virtual crop group. You can also share it into Scrapbooking with Megan or the Ideas and Inspiration group that I share with Tessa, and we'd love to see them. So take care and have fun scrapping.